first team that will speak today is Presidency University, and speaking for the motion on behalf of Presidency University is going to be Satyaki Majumder. Can I please, Satyaki, suggest that those who are speaking for the motion should kindly speak from the right. We get confused in this state because everything that was on the right was left and everything on the left was right for so many years. But all speakers for the motion would kindly, as per conventions of parliamentary debating, speak from the right, and those that are speaking against the motion will speak from the left. Satyaki Majumder is a would-be biochemist, a student of biochemistry, who's also a sitarist, vocalist, sings Rabindra Sangeet, and represents the epitome of fusion between science and art. Over to Satyaki Majumder.
A very good evening to everybody present here, especially to our honorary chairperson and the judges, please. I'm Satyaki Majumder from Presidency University. The topic asks us for our opinion on whether social networking is a failure of communication. Well, for that, we must dwell on what communication today means. The nature and diversity of communication today can be, I think, broadly classified into three types. Communication with other people, communication with yourself, and communication with nature and history and all that has happened before you. With regard to communication with other people, well, I think the first requirement of such contact is the human interaction between any two people involved. You need to be a human being and you need to meet a human being to communicate. Obviously, you can't communicate with aliens from Mars or Venus. Marriage and divorce are today very stark realities in today's society. Well, if you take into account the number of marriages that culminate in divorce barely a year after their completion, then you'll find that a staggering 63% originate on social networking sites like Facebook, Twitter, Orkut, etc. Birthdays. Earlier, once upon a time, of course, I'm talking way back in my childhood, people used to call me up on the stroke on my birthday and wish me, hello Satyaki, a very happy birthday, many, many happy returns. Nowadays, what people do, they use a mangled version of an acronym that was supposed to have been happy birthday, birthday being a single word, and they make it HBD. They separate it all together. HBD Satyaki exclamation mark with a smiley that has no resemblance whatsoever with any facial expression they might have had originally. With ourselves, okay, once we get onto the computer to open a social networking site, we never seem to leave it for hours at end. And our parents, fed up with our lack of attention towards studies, at length go and forcibly, physically extort us from the seat of the computer. So you can see how we don't even give time to ourselves to think, to read, to inculcate our own social and literary values, and we instead engage in a practice that is not only potentially useless, but also grossly unnecessary. Why bother when you can talk with yourself, when you can talk with people directly? Isn't the sound of a person's voice much more musical than the robotic clicking of a keyboard? With nature, with history, well, we used to read books once upon a time. Nowadays, we just go online, search for some ebooks, download, and then browse slowly. The scroll bar seems to never go on descending, and we never seem to stop reading. Funnily enough, we don't imbibe much. Our communication has reached limits that sometimes people get irritated. Like if you over-communicate with somebody, they actually do not like it. Now that never happens in regular conversation because if you irritate someone with speech, you actually have something to profit from the conversation. Either the person lashes back in your own language and you get to learn a bit more language, or it lashes back in a language that you will understand, which will inevitably profit you. Nowadays that doesn't happen because the person simply blocks you from Facebook. What's the point? You're shouting against a wall. No work done eventually, as physics states. Society was once a structure in which you could communicate. You could say that, okay, this is the law. Don't bypass it, don't trespass it, or you'll be severely punished. And social elders were greatly respected. Nowadays, the law has escaped society. Police are expected to be the moral custodians of Indian people, and they literally are so pathetic at the task that of course they can't communicate a country of 1.2 billion people. Society used to do that because society was larger than the country once upon a time. Reality is everything that is. What we see is once removed from reality. What we understand is twice removed from reality. And what we make other people understand is thrice removed from reality. When two people conversed with each other, they were part of each other's reality. Now, we have a computer screen in the middle, thrice removed from reality to begin with. How many times do we need to remove it more? In a human conversation, you are putting a digital facade, a computer, a screen, through which you type in your words on a social networking site, and they appear to somebody else as words. They don't appear as words that come out of your mouth. They appear as words that come out from a computer screen. And frankly, who would expect to pay much attention or affection to a computer screen? It's not that attractive to look at. Twitter. People follow people on Twitter. The ego that people have cultured to such an extent that they think they are gods or priests worth following, as if we are starting a sort of clan-like culture prevalent in the Hellenic ages, and we are now starting following people now. It's an equivalent of mentally walking behind a shadow figure, following a person. Well, an alternate language. As the chairperson so promptly pointed out at the very beginning, English is not what is spoken or typed on the social networking sites. SMS, we don't even write short message service nowadays, we just write SMS. Oh, it's now become text. Once upon a time, text used to mean things that you would read. Now text becomes something you send through the push of a button. Laziness, a direct outcome of social networking. People used to post letters once upon a time. They used to buy stamps from the local post office. They used to buy hinges because once upon a time applying adhesive to the back of a stamp was a literal offense because it could not be taken off easily. You had to apply a hinge and that could be taken off. Now, a pox on all stamps. Just go on a social networking site, say HBD, done, fine. Don't social networking sites create this philosophy of dependence on machines? I mean, we are human beings. Our intelligence has been given to us, of which we use 5% only, for a reason. They are given to us so that we can exploit it, so that we can make ourselves more, we can elevate ourselves. That's the point of human existence, to constantly cultivate our merits, our abilities, so that we always grow better. Photographs. Once upon a time, photographs used to be sent by post with writing on the back, and we would know that this is the writing of the person who sent it, and that used to create such a wonderful feeling of nostalgia. And on the back of the photograph we used to see something that we'd never dreamed of. It's a wonderful world of fantasy. We'd never imagined of seeing Disney World. Okay, and this person has written, "This is Disney World, I hope you like it," on the back of the photograph. It used to be so nice, and that human contact was so natural, was so a part of our existence, and that has disappeared completely. Above all, that human touch, letters in their own handwriting, that mysticism, that wonder has disappeared. Society may feel it needs social networking, yet I cannot help but wonder, are we not walking down the path to the primrose way to the everlasting bonfire? Because how do we know what we actually need? Are we that omniscient? If so, please God forgive me, but you've become unnecessary. When we talk about social networking, well, society already exists. Society exists for the reason that you are expected to make your communications, your interactions, your existence based on society. Why do you need social networking again? Society exists for the very purpose that social networking does. Yet, social networking acts more a barrier to true and proper communication that society never did. So how can we say social networking is not a failure to communication? How can we say that social networking does not contort or hide what we have to say in part or in whole and then give us a mangled version of the truth? And if we don't have the truth in what we say, then the whole point of having a conversation is meaningless. Thank you.
Thank you, Satyaki. We have time for an interjection. Yes, I can see Ranjan, can somebody take the microphone? You want to come up to the microphone? It's very close to you.
Mr. Speaker, you're surely aware that our cells communicate with each other. That the sum total of their social networking is what creates you or creates me. So do you not think there are situations where social networking and communication are actually complementary?
Well, sir, our cells, being units of ourselves, are not exactly social for all we call ourselves to be social. Man may be a social animal, but he's still an animal. He's not social. And our cells only serve to exemplify that behavior. That's why they're at war. That's why diseases exist.
Okay.